the truth of it to some degree is, you know, that rugged kind of masculinity, right? A lot of us, and in the culture when we talk about rugged, right? We could also, and there's two sides to this. Let me make the positive and the negative kind of split it between the two. The ruggish, right, would be, um, you know, the person that is not afraid to get their hands dirty, right?
Right.
Um, you know,
That's the
and
one
that
who go over
gamut,
that goes over the hill first. Goes over the hill first and
right,
catches them arrows. Come back and be like, "Yo,
right,
they're deep over there." they
right,
shoot. They shoot and they.
right,
you
exactly,
know.
exactly. Um, that type of man, because society is actually leaning less away from that kind of man, and um, I would even say it's almost considered now to be, um, to- it's borderline toxic almost. If you know what I mean, it's almost, society has gotten to that point where we've left because we have become so technologically advanced to some degree, right?
Right.
Because we've gotten away from the kind of industrial or even the way of life where we have to kind of fend for ourselves on a regular basis. It's becoming more where this type of man is considered toxic. And again, it doesn't necessarily mean that, but there's a thin line, right, between when we talk about the ruggish and the roguish, right?
Right.
Right. The ruggish is the type where, he's the protector, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's the fighter, right? He's the warrior, right? He's the soldier, right? He's the mechanic, right? Even the mechanic is kind of like this type of person, right? Just
Right.
and
Hands on.
hands on, right? Just gets into it, gets dirty, ain't worried about how he looks, right? To others, right? And will be able to kind of push forward in regards to just any type of action that is, masculine in nature. Where
Right.
the other side of that is roguish. And because society has to have duality, you have that type excuse me, that is um the villain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um the bully, right? Um um the um the abuser, right? You know, again, it's a thin line.
Right.
And I think Kevin Samuels tries to do a job as much as possible where, that rugged type of man, right, is considered quote unquote, the man's man, right? The man that men, I guess, apparently look up to or try to emulate as far as manhood is concerned. But as we're going to talk about here, there's another couple of types, right, that can diverge from that and still be very much considered, manly. Um,
Right. I think he, like, I think that's, I mean, you just, and especially, I think, because you got to think about it like this too. Back in the day, when I think about like my father's generation and everything like that, like, you know, pre hip hop, right? You had men that could sing. You understand what I'm saying? And singing wasn't viewed as a feminine thing. You
right.
understand what I'm
My
saying?
point, yes, my point. Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Brothers that get, they'll get clean. You know what I'm saying? I mean, people get clean today, but when I think about my dad and my uncles, what I mean, I'm from the Midwest. Like Cleveland. If you from Cleveland, you got a lot of family. Chicago, Cleveland, Chicago, that Midwest type of old school. What they would call like a player. You understand what I'm
Right,
saying?
right. We're gonna talk
They
about that too, though, because we got them locked in. Trust me, right?
Right. It
Yeah.
was a different, it was a broader spectrum of what you see today. And I mean, it's like you mentioned, it's kind of fading a little bit. But especially up until this point, definitely from the '90s up until the 2019, 2020, and stuff like that. We went through a real heavy phase of everybody was like, there was a rugged. You understand, like a pants sagging. You understand what I'm saying? You feel me? Like a different, what I mean? It was just
Oh
a
yeah,
different aura that you had to always be on. You know what I mean?
yeah, definitely. And you know, I don't want to say the wrong thing, right?
Uh
Because we
huh.
are on YouTube, right? But
Right.
my era was, when you were from the streets, that street element, you had, Dickies, right?
Right.
But they were creased, right? Uh,
He a West Coast guy.
yeah, you had,
They was rocking creases in Cleveland too, a little bit. Yeah,
yeah, I
they was
mean, you had,
rocking.
it was a uniform that you almost even wore, right? To some
Right.
degree, right? Where now skinny jeans, right?
Yeah.
You know, just it's just different, right? And I don't want to say bad or good, right? It's just if you wore skinny jeans back in the day, right, there was a whole different conversation going on, right? If I
Right.
walked in with skinny jeans in my high school days, they'd be like,
well, it depends. What year was you in high school?
I graduated in '92.
Okay. You might have maybe 92 was right then, but if you was like in 88, 89, you might have you would have got away with skinny jeans cuz there was only skinny jeans
It went as in like,
in the 80s, like the jeans, cuz I remember there was a while before you couldn't even really find like real live baggy jeans. Like you had to take Wranglers and almost make them into baggy jeans, but everything that was available like your Levi's and all that stuff like that, they was for all practical purposes skinny jeans. But you just wore them different. You didn't wear them like, you know what I'm saying? Like when you look at NWA, any of the early rappers, all of them were wearing skinny jeans, but it's the way that you wore the skinny jeans. You understand what I'm saying? That I think changes
yeah,
it.
yeah. I mean, we cuffed ours on the bottom inward, right?
Uh
And
huh.
we creased it to where the cuff would stay inside. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it depends. I think on where you're from too, because like you said, you're from the Midwest and from on the West Coast, right? We really don't. It was just you had that kind of cliche-ish uh, hood look. You know what I mean? It's just very much, white Cortezes. It was a standard look. So, and we just now it's just a free for all to some degree, right? You wear what you want to wear, you wear how you want to wear it, and it's to be accepted because everyone has, their say. And even when we talk about this, we could even go so far as to look at it from perspective of when I was a young man, right? You had winners and you had losers, right?
Right.
Yet you had a pecking order to where you either were on the top and then you trickle down from there. Now everybody's a winner, right? Right? Everybody's
And topically or like superficially, everybody's a winner, but it's
uh,
still those
like
pecking
per
orders still
per
exist.
society per societies. You see what I mean?
Right.
Kind of. One second. So per society's kind of approach to it, definitely right. Now you get a ribbon no matter what, right?
Right.
And field day, if you were the ruggish type, right, the athletic type, right, and again, like I said, the ruggish can span outward from many different purviews, right? There's different ways of doing the ruggish type, right? You have the athlete, he's the ruggish type, football player, basketball player, even might even be tennis player to some degree, right? That's the ruggish type, and that's where we
Right.
can look at the fire signs to kind of gauge, that type of, you know, um, prototype in man. But I think that's slowly dying to some degree because, like I said, society is, and again, we have to be careful in labeling people because there's so many variances that are within the construct of a human, right? You have a chart that has all kind of different placements. But when you do see that particular Aryan model, you see it, right?
Right.
It's undeniable, right? It's carte blanche, like this is what it is. And so you can see it displayed in society on multiple levels. Your police officer, he's the kind of rugged type, where if he's, crossed that line where he's lost his integrity, he becomes the bad cop, but they're still the cop type, or hero or protector type archetype. And so, the fire signs are great ways to gauge that. It's a way that the universe has set up, so society has, you know, things that are pegged to fill a role and need. Right, we do need these type of brothers, and even type of men that help uphold that kind of standard. And like you said, back in the day, it was more prevalent to be that kind of individual, but also you have others that were, you know, different as well. I when I grew up, um, I was surrounded by the rugged type, right? I mean,
Right.
I wouldn't consider myself as such, right? But it was more that's the type that get off the porch, right?
Mm.
Go, ride your bike, get dirty, come back, get into trouble sometimes because that energy is fearless. It doesn't know boundaries. It doesn't know consequence, right? It has to learn by trial and error. So that type of rugged type, I was surrounded by it. I'm not considered that type, right? Because we're going to talk about the other types in just a second. But it does hold some weight. It holds some merit as far as these particular types of attributes that men can hold, right? Not to say women can't. Again, this is not bias, but we're talking about Kevin Samuels, and we're talking about kind of the purview that has been promoted amongst several different manospheres, right? I don't know if you don't. I know my good brother knows manospheres, but those of you that don't know, manospheres are kind of like where you have these kind of enclaves of men that talk about manhood, right? And this is kind of the current theme that has been discussed through these manospheres, or these kind of groups of men that discuss manhood, right? What type of man are you? How do you size up? Are you the
Right.
rugged, right? Are you the rough? Are you the down and dirty? Are you the one that's gonna take, kick butt and take names, right? Or are you the rakish, or are you the refined, right? And all three are definitely the type, but just understand that when you look at it, when you really look at the through the lens of astrology, you can definitely see it in the Aryan type of individual,
Indeed.
right? Um, what do you think about the rakish kind of disposition? What's your call on where are you feeling with that? What's your
So, based on kind of like the definition, of course, to me, it's like somebody that's kind of all right. Before I even say that, I look at this more of like a more than a type of man, but a type of masculinity, and it almost can be viewed as the type of phases, a general outline of the type of phases that a man can go through in life.
mhm,
You know what I mean? Like you might start off, a little bit more roguish. You understand what I'm saying? And then, when you get a little bit more mature, you can pull off the kind of rakish type, the more, kind of like, you're like a little bit dangerous. You understand what I'm at that point? Like you
mhm,
got a little bit enough to be a little dangerous. You understand what I'm saying? Like you're a little mature now. You might, have, some stripes on your belt a little bit now, and you kind of testing your yourself in the world, where you stand and stuff like that. And then, after all those experiences, you kind of culminate into like a more refined person that can probably tap into each one of those, but your general presentation is a more refined, kind of fire. You understand what I'm saying? Type of
Tempered,
men.
yeah,
Yeah,
tempered.
you know,
Yeah.
or whatnot.
Yeah, that is true. That's kind of um, the schedule that um, many men can be on. And to some degree, it does happen in a natural way. But sometimes I think we can become rigid.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Not now in today's society. I don't
It's
think.
not right,
I
right,
don't think. I don't think we're doing that en masse. No.
right. Yeah.
You know.
I think that's the grand ideal, right? For
Right.
us to become, that type of individual. But um, you know, life has it as such that a lot of times, and one of the things that you and I both know is when you approach the same different situations with the same mindset, right? Right, you're gonna get a result that's usually failure, right?
Right.
Um, and that's what life has it is such that when we are locked into these archetypes, right? When we're locked into being just rugged, you know, I don't know how to respond in a refined way, right?
Right.
I don't know how to respond in a um, je ne sais quoi type of uh, uh, way where I can move you without you being moved, right? Knowing you're being moved. Um, we just get locked in, or some of us need to be a little more rugged,
Right.
right? And we get caught into the kind of, um, you know, like you said, the singing type, right?
Mm.
The lover, not the fighter type disposition. And sometimes you need to be the fighter, and I think women want in relationships all three, you know, they do to some degree, right? They want the man that they know somebody comes to the door or comes busting in your house late at night, right? The rugged is gonna come out, right?
Right.
He's gonna present himself and very well, right, and be able to handle business. And they want to be able to have it to where if they are going to, let's say, a business party, you can definitely be presentable, well articulated, you know um, mannerable, sociable. And also they want it to be when you're alone, right, or when you're off, in amongst the societal kind of interactions, you can be the one that shines, that has the kind of ability to put on a show, the ability to attract others, and to be, special in a way. So, I think women want all three types, and it's 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 reasonable, but is it
It's not.
is it probable, right? It's not.
I got
It's yeah.
to kind of to your point, because I mean, if you're black and you're in America, I say about, according to the studies, about 8 times out of 10 you're raised by your mom, right?
True.
And from my experience of primarily being raised by a single mother, I think single mothers, especially if she's a woman who got a good head on her shoulders and stuff like that, she wants you to be like the more refined type. And I had an experience coming up where my mom, I had like these ruggish tendencies. You understand what I'm saying? But she was always trying to, so like I had asthma coming up, and like she used to always try to keep me out of sports, and she worked a lot. So when I was in the fourth grade, all my friends were like older than me. They was like seventh grade, eighth grade, and stuff like that. And came fall time, everybody signing up for football. And my mom, I've been begging my mom to play football since I was like 5 years old. You understand what I'm saying? She never would let me. So I just thugged it out, went by went behind her back, got a forged signature, signed up for the middle school football team at elementary school. She didn't know until like the first or second game of the class. You understand what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
it's like, you're trying to get, especially black men, that a lot of what you come up in it's trying to push you in a certain direction, and you kind of have to. You're almost on your own and finding. You understand what I'm saying? These different kind of masculine expressions. You have to almost go get them. You understand what I'm saying? Because sometimes
Hmm.
you're born in the situations that try to, you know what I mean? Like you don't always get the full masculine expression. You know what I mean? In
True.
today's
True.
world, from my opinion, you know.
No, no, you're right. You're right. Um, I think, you know, if we really look at the African model for manhood, I think you had a good point earlier in that, and it's not even, I want to say African. I think just traditional societies, right, have it to where life is designed in that way. You go through and you get it to the point where you um, have a rites of passage. You know, that's the rugged archetype, right? The rites of passage, facing your trials, learning courage, you know, um, adapting to your circumstance to make the best of it to where you overcome any adversity. That's the rites of passage, right? And I think, as you were saying, that's that part of you that was calling forth to come to that realization that, hey, I can do this. I can handle it. It's nothing that I can't do. And sports is one of those. I mean, and I say sports is a good way to do that. You know, Sports is
Right.
an excellent way to do that. You meet men, young men that are, rough, tough, and dangerous. You shoulder to shoulder, elbow to elbow. You fight your opponent, and you come out either winner or loser. But you at least know, right?
You know,
We,
you're right.
you're right. That's kind of the modern day rites of passage, right?
Yeah.
In the positive sense. In the negative sense, it's gangs. You know, it's
Yeah.
the same thing, right?
Right.
You got a team, your crip, your blood, right? Your disciple, your vice lord, right? Your whatever. That's your team, right? And you fight for your team, right? You go through and they tough and rough you up, right? See if you can handle yourself, right? If you can, you're on the team, right? Of
Right.
course, this is play for
Or
keeps instead of playing ball, right? But and that's why I talked about that rugged archetype with the positive and the negative, right? But
yeah. I mean that
right.
you brought up an excellent point as well because I got another story. When I first moved to Atlanta, and in the neighborhood I moved in, you know, I mean, I had been going there for a couple weeks and stuff like that, and then all the older cats was like, we was getting off the bus, and they was like, these were much older than us. We were elementary, and they were like, they had to be like ninth grade and stuff like that. And me, and I guess whoever the top ranking youngest little kid in the neighborhood, they was like, y'all got to scrap, man. You understand what I'm saying? And they circled around us and stuff like that, and we had the box or whatnot. You know what I'm saying? And after that point, I was respected in the neighborhood.
You earned your respect, right?
Right.
So that's kind of the first stage, and that's an excellent way to put it. Is that you've learned your kind of way to do things, and then way to do things as far as getting things done, right?
Right.
But then there's another stage in traditional societies where now you have gone through your rites of passage, you've proven yourself, you've fought the lion, you caught the lion and killed him, right? Or you faced your opponent, you've overcome your trials, whatever it is, right? um, and then you become a regular part of society. You are now considered someone that has the ability to reproduce, to add to your communal group. You stand out whatever in whatever field or craft that you're in, or you're a farmer, or you're make textiles, or you kind of get some, not refinement, but you gain pride, you gain that kind of ability to be separate and individual, not from the individual, from the group, but an individual as a person, that you're not just a robot, you're not an automaton, you're not out of control, right?
Right.
Type deal. And then
Automatron.
you get that aspect of life where now you've lived, the majority of your life and you're settled down. You're more you have a lot more understanding and you can apply both types equally, right? And you have a balance. And someone actually said, I think Michael Tanner talks about like the Thomas Rogers and Satra. It is like that to some degree. In fact, that's a very good way of putting it, right?
Right.
But you get to that age where now you're an elder or you're what they call an OG, right?
Yeah.
Right. You gained not only the respect but the wisdom and the knowledge and experience that comes along with life and teaches you when to apply things and when not to. And that's the refined aspect. That's really when you become a whole man, right? But again, right, that's the ideal, right? That's the way it would be done if we were in a balanced and equitable society, but we're not, right? We don't really know rites of passage. We do instinctively, and that's what I was talking about, that kind of sports and type. But a lot of men I know a lot of men that stay in that line, that thought process. They know every single player's stats on the
Mm-hmm.
team. It was high school. I'm like, how do you know this stuff? Like, they're caught in that rugged type. They're out playing ball like as if they're replaying the football game, and this is what I would have done if I were, Terrell Owens, or if I were, whoever. You can tell I'm not a sports type person, but um, you know, they do that, and I'm talking about men that are my age and even older, right? That still are in that rugged competitive aspect. And so that's why when you look at a chart and it's variables, right? You can look at it and it could be Mars conjunct the moon, it could be Mars in the ascendant, right? It could be a lot of Aryan dispositions. It could be Mars conjunct the ascendant Lord. It can be different ways that it comes out, but Mars will have its say, right? It will have its impact to make sure that that rugged energy is played out to the T.